Hey everyone, welcome to All Techies. I'm Pankaj Rai, and in this video I'm going to talk about Cloud Firestore. Cloud Firestore is one of the services offered by Firebase. If you have never used Firebase, then I would strongly recommend to use Firebase as it offers so many services which are useful for making production grade applications, for students to make projects, and for even the self-made developers who want to create their own application. So Firebase offers so many services, and Cloud Firestore is one of them that we'll see today. So this video is mainly focused on what it is and how it looks on the Firebase console. And in the next subsequent video, we'll see how we can use it in our Android application. So let's talk about Cloud Firestore. So the moment you launch this page, you'll see the console, and at the left side panel, you'll see the develop option. Inside the develop option, you'll see authentication, Cloud Firestore, real-time database, storage, hosting, function, and machine learning. Well, Cloud Firestore and real-time database, they both are databases and they both are real-time, but they both have their own advantages and disadvantages. If you want a very highly scalable database, well structured, then Cloud Firestore is really a good option. But if it's a small scale application and you want an instant response, then real-time database is a good solution. So I'll give a link in the description below where you can see the comparison between Cloud Firestore and the real-time database. Based on that, you could figure it out at what suits the need for you. Let's switch to Cloud Firestore. So the moment you click on this, first time it will ask you to create the database. Now one thing here is it is asking to create the database, which means that there is no need for any server configuration. And that's where it said that Cloud Firestore is serverless. Well, the term says serverless, but it's really not the serverless. What it means is that you need not have to bother about the server, the configurations, and then handling multiple users. Everything is taken care for you. Even the load balancing, all sort of things which a backend developer has to handle. You don't need to handle all such things. You just create the database and everything is managed for you by Firebase. So as you click on create database, the first thing it will ask you is to open it in which mode, production mode or test mode. I would strongly recommend to use production mode for your production application or for any other application which is going to the public, because with production mode you give the rules. Rules are nothing but the security rules defined to read or write to this database. Here you can define who can read or who can write to this database. For example, you may be having some sort of functionality which doesn't require user to log in. So you can say about like anyone can write without login functionality. But for reading it, you may want your users to get authenticated. So such thing you can define it here. Not just this, you can also have a filter based content, like in most of the places you might be seeing that the certain keywords are banned. So such things also you can define it here in the security rules. Test mode is really a good option if you want to get started with this as early as possible, and if you are in a development mode. During that time, test mode is really good. So I'm starting it in test mode because I want to get started in the development mode. So let me click on next. And now this is the place where you have to define where do you want to have this server configuration for you. One thing to remember, the moment you set it here, next time you're not able to change it. So you can select any of the data centers, and because I'm in India, so let me select for India South 1 and just click on enable. That's it. Just by this way, you'll get your backend database created for you, and you just need to use the Firebase SDK where you'll specify the collections, all the reference. I'll talk about that in a moment. So this is a place where you'll upload all sort of content, whichever you want to have it in the cloud storage, get the link and then have it in this Cloud Firestore. Why is that? That's all because Cloud Firestore doesn't support any sort of multimedia. which means that if you are uploading, say, profile pics, then you need to upload it to the cloud storage, and you'll get the URL. That URL, you can have it in Cloud Firestore. So this is the dashboard for Cloud Firestore, where you can see the data, rules, indexes, and usage. So rules is the place where I was talking about, where you can specify who can read the data, who can write. So all sort of documents, collections, security, all you can provide it here itself. Currently it's defined like read and write. Till this time it's open, and after that time I cannot read or write. That's the default one in test mode. But do not have this for your production application. Next is about indexes. This is really useful because if you are adding the querying capabilities, then indexes is important. This querying capability is like, say you want to have a limit, then order by, then other querying parameters, then you'll need index that it should search based on what first. Usage is, it shows you the number of read, write, deletes, all sort of things it will show you here. And one thing to remember here is like Firebase doesn't charge you for this direct from the beginning. So you have a free limit for this. And until that free limit crosses, till then you can use this free of cost. Okay, now let's talk about the structure. So the structure followed with Cloud Firestore is the collection and document based structure, and it's NoSQL database. So how SQL and NoSQL differs? The main difference between SQL and NoSQL is like the way you structure it. In SQLite or in the SQL mechanism, you say that normalization is good. You should normalize your data. But here with Cloud Firestore, as it's NoSQL database, so redundancy is good here. So rather than over optimizing by doing normalization, if you have redundancy, it's still good, because the moment you have more and more links, that's going to cost you more, because every read and write is going to cost you. Even it's free, there's a limit for this. Okay, now let's start with what is collection and what is document. So collection is the first entry point. Collection itself doesn't store any data, but it can store documents, which can in turn store data. So all of them, either it's collection or the document, all of them should have unique IDs. So let me give this as user, where the collection ID is user, and now it asks me for the document ID, because collection, if it's an empty, then there's no point of having collection. So I need to give ID for the document and the field associated with it. So I can give field as name, and I can have type as string, number, boolean, map, array, null, timestamp, geopoint, and reference. So here it's string, and let me say this like XYZ, and then I could have address, and here again I can have map or string. Let me have this as like, say, India, and let me change this to country. Now one thing is like, if I give ID, then there could be a probable case that I may give same ID once again. And if ID is not important for me to know about this document ID, then what I could do is like, rather than giving ID from my side, I could generate this unique ID automatically. And this is true from the SDK side also. You can either set content or add content. If you add content, then ID is generated automatically for you. And if you set it, then you have to provide ID. So both of them are permitted. And that's it. So now you could see collection, which doesn't store any sort of data, but have document with it, where each document is having 1 MB limit. You cannot cross 1 MB limit, and there's more limitation for this that I'll talk on later on when I'll integrate it in the Android application. And now you have country and name, these two fields associated with this document. So how do it is storing the data? So for that, you can think as if all this real-time database, what do they does is like you can think as if there's a huge hash table. You could say the based on the hash function, a particular block is allocated for it. And that's why when you try to search 1 in 1 million or 1 in 10,000, it really doesn't matter. The query is not based on the number of elements. The query time depends on the number of items that you want to search. If you're searching for a single entity, it's going to take same amount of time whether you search in million or just in 1,000 elements. Same way, if you're searching for 10 elements, it's going to cost you the same time for either searching in 100 record or 1 million record. That's all because this depends on the result set, not the entire documents stored in the collection. So this is the place where you could have a collection document, and one thing is like in a single document, because it's having a limitation of 1 MB, then there could be a possibility that you may want to add an hierarchy also. So rather than increasing hierarchy in the single document, what you could do is like you can add another collection, information, and again everything is same here, where I could say phone number. Now by this way I'm increasing the hierarchy, which means that initially this was having a collection as user, which is having a single document. This document is having two entities and a collection. And when you'll search this document, you'll not get information about this collection, rather you'll get information about this too. And if you want to search for this document, then you have to provide path till this document or till this collection item. That's all because the search here with Cloud Firestore is a shallow search, not deep search, unlike the real-time database. The rule of thumb here is like you can have collection, then document, again collection, again document. No two collections together, no two document together. And all of them should have a unique ID. One thing is like this unique ID is limited till the connection. So this information is limited only till this user, which means that I can create one more collection, say student, I can add document, and in that again I can have a collection with ID as information. So the limitation for this unique ID is limited till, you can say, in a collection bucket or in the document bucket. In this way it is limited there. And one thing to remember here is like whatever elements which you are adding here, they are all indexed. Not just this, say if I have address, and instead of this I am saying an array, and I'm giving some sort of information here like 1 2 and then 3, then do not misunderstand this that it's just one index, rather it's 3. So array are also indexed individually. So that's it in this video, and in the next video I'll talk even more about Cloud Firestore, and then later on we'll also see how we can use it in our Android application. So for that, stay tuned, and if you haven't subscribed this channel, then do hit the subscribe button, and if you like this video, then hit the like button. Thank you and stay tuned.